a billionaire with secrets, a mistress with a hidden agenda, and a wife who's pulling all the strings. When tech mogul Damian Blackwood begins a dangerous affair with a captivating stranger, he doesn't realize she's not who she claims to be. But neither does she. In a world of power, lies, and seduction, someone's about to get played. Hello family, welcome to Storytime with Imzi. Please subscribe and like, it means the world to us. Also share this video to your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The heels of Isabella Vega's Louboutins clicked sharply against the marble floor of the private hangar, a calculated rhythm that echoed with confidence. The Gulfstream G650 behind her still hummed with residual heat, but she was already stepping into her role, flawless, poised, irresistible. Beneath the silk-wrapped dress hugging her curves, a micro-recorder nestled like a secret beneath her clavicle. It was a strange kind of armor. Los Angeles shimmered in the distance, veiled in the late afternoon haze. A car waited. Black, of course. Discreet. Expensive. Like everything in this world she was about to inhabit. She slid into the back seat and crossed her legs. Beverly Hills. Rodeo. I have a fitting. The driver didn't question her. He never did. That was the benefit of working for Evelyn Blackwood, wife of Damian Blackwood, billionaire tech mogul and habitual philanderer. Allegedly, Isabella's mission was simple: seduce Damian, let him seduce her, and catch him in the act. All on camera. Evelyn had paid top dollar for discretion and results. And Isabella? She never failed. But as the car glided through palm-lined streets, she caught her reflection in the window. A stranger stared back. Soft curls. Crimson lips. Just enough perfume to stir something in a man without drowning him in it. Everything about her was curated to perfection. A fantasy. A lie. Still, she wasn't nervous. She never was. She'd infiltrated criminal networks, corporate syndicates, even the entourage of a Russian arms dealer. Becoming a mistress? That was child's play. What made this different, what made it dangerous, was the man himself. Damian Blackwood was not just any billionaire. He was brilliant, ruthless private. Founder of Tech, whispered about in government circles, praised in TED Talks, and almost never photographed in anything but black. Women fell for him like dominoes, and he left them in quiet, expensive silence. But Evelyn wanted proof. She had waited long enough. The prenup demanded hard evidence. One intimate frame could cost Damian billions. Evelyn didn't just want revenge. She wanted to win. The car stopped at a boutique hotel in the hills. Isabella stepped out and looked up at the building where she would first cross his path. An exclusive charity art auction. Invitation only. She had hers tucked inside her clutch, forged by the best. She smiled. The hunt was about to begin. The gallery was lit like a dream, soft, golden lighting spilling over priceless canvases and crystal glasses. Waiters floated through the room like well-dressed ghosts, balancing trays of champagne and canapes. Conversations murmured like distant waves, money and power disguised as idle chatter. Isabella entered slowly, letting the room absorb her. Every movement was rehearsed to appear effortless. The way her hand brushed her thigh to smooth her dress, the subtle tilt of her head when she smiled. Eyes followed her, as they always did. Men noticed. Women assessed. But she was only looking for one. She found Damian Blackwood across the room. His back turned as he studied a minimalist painting that looked like a mistake and cost more than a house. Tall, tailored in charcoal gray, drink in hand but untouched. Even from behind, he radiated presence, like gravity had shifted around him. "Overrated, isn't it?" she said, her voice smooth as cashmere. He turned, and for the briefest flicker of a second, her breath caught. The photos hadn't done him justice. Sharp cheekbones softened only by the curve of a smirk. Cold blue eyes that warmed instantly when they landed on her. Dangerous eyes. He looked at the painting, then at her. "Depends. Are we still talking about the art?" "A game, then." She stepped closer, just inside his space. "I never talk about anything directly. It's part of my charm." He laughed, quiet, low, genuine. "You're not on the guest list." "I am now," she said, pulling a slender card from her clutch and handing it to him. It read Isadora Voss, a name crafted for elegance and mystery. her alias for this mission. Isadora, he repeated slowly, tasting it. And what brings you to an auction filled with the elite and insufferable? I have a weakness for beautiful things, she said, her eyes holding his. And sometimes for broken ones. The air between them shifted, charged now, as if the room itself had gone still. She felt the weight of his gaze, not just appreciative but curious. She was different. He could sense it. That was the point. Damien finished his drink in a single swallow. Walk with me. They strolled through the gallery like two predators who hadn't decided whether to circle or strike. He asked her nothing about herself. He was too used to people lying, or too smart to ask. Instead, he talked about the art, the city, the things people pretended to love. I find honesty exhausting, he admitted, pausing in front of a sculpture shaped like a jagged mirror. People never really want it. They just want something that sounds close enough. Then you're in luck, she said, her tone playful but low. I specialize in illusions. A flicker in his expression, interest or suspicion. It didn't matter. She was in. The hook was set. By the end of the night, he handed her a black card. Just his first name. No number. Just a location and a time. Tomorrow. If you're not afraid of being honest. She tucked it into her clutch, smiled, and walked away before he could see the gleam of victory in her eyes. The trap was set. And so was she. The next evening, Isabella stood in front of a glass wall that framed the Los Angeles skyline like a cinematic dream. Damien's penthouse was perched atop the highest point in Century City, a sleek fortress of steel, glass, and silence. Everything about it, like its owner, was precise, immaculate, and nearly impossible to read. She wasn't nervous. She told herself that again as she adjusted the thin strap of her dress. But there was something different this time. Something about the way Damien had looked at her the night before. As if he already knew too much. The door slid open soundlessly behind her. You came, he said. Isabella turned. I'm curious by nature. Damien was dressed down this time, black sweater, dark jeans, barefoot. And somehow, that made him even more dangerous. Vulnerability on a man like him wasn't real. It was strategy. Or so she assumed. He handed her a glass of wine and joined her by the window. You don't talk much about yourself, he said. She sipped. That's because people talk too much. That earned a low chuckle. Fair. But I want to know what you want, Isadora. She turned to him. What makes you think I want anything? Because women who don't want anything don't come up to strangers at auctions. And they don't show up the next night without asking questions. He was testing her, pushing at the cracks in her story. She smiled, letting just enough truth slip through to sound dangerous. Fine. I wanted to see what the city's most elusive billionaire does when he's alone. And she let her eyes drift over the penthouse, the sharp angles, the soft lighting, the empty space. You don't live here. You haunt it. Something in his expression shifted. Not offense. Not surprise. Just recognition. Damien walked to the bar and poured himself a whiskey neat. Do you want the real version of me, Isadora? Or the one you've heard about? She shrugged. I'm not sure I believe in real versions of anyone. Good answer, he murmured, then sat on the edge of the sofa, inviting her to join him. When she did, he said quietly, My wife and I don't sleep in the same bed. Haven't in years. We don't fight because we don't speak. We show up for the cameras, we toast to milestones, we smile in the press. A pause. People think I cheat because it makes the story cleaner. The cold billionaire with the ice queen wife. Easy headlines. But it's not true. Not anymore. Isabella froze. Not anymore. He stared at the dark liquor in his glass. There were women. Not many. Not meaningful. But Evelyn knew. And she stopped caring. Or started planning. Hard to tell with her. Every instinct screamed at Isabella to play along, dig deeper, get closer. But his honesty, if that's what it was, felt unguarded. Too quiet to be a performance. Why are you telling me this? She asked. He looked at her for a long moment. Because you're not just another woman, Isadora. You're watching me too closely. Like you're waiting for something. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Maybe she was. Maybe he was too. The distance between them shrank without touch. There was heat in the silence, thick and sharp-edged. But instead of leaning in, Damien rose, walked to the wall of windows, and stared out at the endless city below. People always want something from me, he said quietly. What do you want? For once, Isabella didn't know how to answer. Because suddenly, she wasn't sure anymore. Isabella sat on the edge of the hotel bed, legs crossed, robe loose around her shoulders, laptop balanced on her knees. Rain tapped faintly against the balcony glass, unusual for LA, but somehow fitting. A storm was coming. Not the kind outside. She'd just finished reviewing the audio from last night. Damien's voice low, steady, vulnerable. His words looped in her earbuds like a confession. There were women. Not many. Not meaningful. Evelyn knew. Isabella removed the earpiece and shut the laptop. The evidence was too soft. Too ambiguous. It wasn't the damning footage Evelyn wanted, and it wasn't the kind Isabella was used to delivering. And yet, Evelyn didn't call to ask for progress. She called to remind. Time is money, Ms. Vega, she'd said earlier that morning, voice brittle as crystal. And Damien's is worth billions. Evelyn Blackwood always spoke with elegance, even when veiled threats curled at the edge of her words. She was no fool. She'd hired Isabella through a high-tier private intelligence firm, an off-the-books outfit for people who couldn't afford legal routes. Rich people. Dangerous people. Still, Isabella had questions. Too many. And she didn't like operating blind. So she did what spies do best, she started digging. She'd been given only the bare minimum on Evelyn. Born Evelyn Lancaster, heiress to a family-owned luxury hotel chain, graduate of Yale, married Damien Blackwood in what the tabloids called the merger of the century. But it didn't take long to go deeper. A hidden file buried in a quiet offshore server. Legal documents. A prenup clause written in razor-sharp legalese. In the event of infidelity substantiated by third-party evidence, the non-breaching spouse shall be entitled to 50% of all marital and individual net worth at the time of breach. Isabella blinked. Half. Damien's estimated net worth, $6.3 billion. She leaned back slowly. So that was the game. This wasn't about heartbreak. Evelyn didn't want closure. She wanted war spoils. She wanted proof that would bleed Damien dry. And Isabella was just the elegant scalpel. But it didn't sit right. Something about Evelyn's calm, the way she'd asked for proof, without specifying what kind. As if she didn't just expect it, but needed it. Like she knew Damien wouldn't cheat unless someone gave him the opportunity. Unless Isabella herself was the opportunity. She stared at her reflection in the dark TV screen. Loose hair, bare shoulders, a trace of guilt she couldn't quite suppress. It wasn't just a sting operation. It was entrapment. The line between seduction and sabotage blurred further by the hour. Damien had invited her back to his penthouse the next night. She could feel the tension rising between them like a tide. A few more nudges. A well-timed kiss. He'd slip. But now, she didn't know if she wanted him to. Or worse, what it would mean if he didn't. She closed the laptop with a soft click, stood, and walked to the glass balcony. Below, the city stretched out in glittering indifference. Above her, somewhere in the darkened heights of Bel Air, Evelyn Blackwood waited, watching, calculating, sharpening her knives. And Isabella? She was already inside the web. And the spider wasn't who she thought it was. Isabella's heels clicked against the marble floors of Damien's penthouse for the second time that week. But this time, the rhythm was different. Slower. Less calculated. Less armored. Damien had asked her over again late. No pretense of dinner. No other guests. Just 2 glasses set out on the kitchen island, and a record playing something low and smoky in the background. Nina Simone, she thought. A voice that bled truth. I didn't think you'd come, he said as he handed her a drink. I didn't think I would either. He didn't smile. Not this time. He just nodded and poured whiskey into both their glasses. The air was heavy with unspoken things. There was a tension between them that had begun like a flirtation, but now curled into something more dangerous, uncertainty. They stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows, the glittering sprawl of Los Angeles wrapping around them like an illusion neither of them could fully believe in. Can I ask you something? He said finally, eyes on the city. You can ask. Have you ever lied about who you are to someone who trusted you? The glass in her hand suddenly felt heavy. What kind of question is that? The kind someone asks when they can feel the walls moving. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a sip and looked out into the dark. Sometimes lies are kinder than truths. Damien turned to face her. That's something someone says when they've had to live with both. He stepped closer, not predatory, not demanding, just near enough that the air between them shifted again. It wasn't the scripted seduction she'd prepared for. It was quiet, almost sad. I'm not who I was 10 years ago, he said. I did things I'm not proud of. Evelyn and I, we had rules. But somewhere along the line, we stopped following them. And now we live like ghosts in a contract. She looked up at him. Why not just end it? Because people like us don't end things. We outmaneuver them. The confession hung there, an echo between their silences. And then he touched her. Not her waist, not her shoulder. Her face. Fingers against her jaw, gentle, like he needed to know she was real. Isadora, he breathed, and this time it wasn't a line. It was a plea. And she let him. Their lips met, slowly, cautiously, like they were both terrified of what it meant. It wasn't the kiss of a man chasing a thrill or a woman chasing a target. It was full of ache, of risk. Isabella felt it the moment it happened. The shift from mission to something else. Something raw. She should have stopped it. But she didn't. Not when he pulled her closer. Not when his hands slid around her waist. Not even when the recorder pressed cold against her skin beneath her dress. This was the moment Evelyn had paid for. The footage she'd demanded. All she had to do was step back, lift her phone, and seal Damien's fate. Instead, Isabella turned it off. Just like that. The red light blinked once and disappeared. Damien didn't notice. He was too far gone. So was she. And when they finally made it to the bedroom, she wasn't thinking about money or leverage or contracts. She was thinking about truth. And how, for the first time in years, she had no idea which side of it she was on. Morning came like a reckoning. The sun spilled into the penthouse, golden and cruel, illuminating the sleek lines of the room, the tangle of sheets, the silence that followed what should have been a victory. Isabella sat up slowly, wrapping the sheet around her like armor. Damien was still asleep, chest rising in the calm rhythm of someone who didn't know his entire world was on the edge of a blade. Her phone buzzed on the floor. One new message. No name, just the number Evelyn had used since the beginning. Is he yours yet? Isabella stared at the text for a long time. No emojis. No warmth. Just business. A second message came seconds later. I want the footage today, or you'll both regret it. Regret. A strange word, coming from a woman who had arranged this entire farce. Evelyn didn't regret. Evelyn calculated. But there was something desperate in that second text. Isabella rose, padded barefoot to the living room, and retrieved her hidden laptop from beneath the sofa cushions where she'd stashed it the night before. She plugged in the recorder, fingers hesitating. No footage. Nothing but ambient audio. The kiss, the touch, the moment, it was gone. Erased. Because she'd made a choice last night. One she could not take back. A low sound behind her made her turn. Damien, barefoot, shirtless, leaned against the wall with a cup of coffee in hand. You're up early. Habit, she said smoothly, closing the laptop before he could see the screen. He studied her for a beat. You always look like you're preparing for something. Maybe I am. He walked over and sat beside her. I don't know what this is between us, but it doesn't feel like a game. It's not, she said before she could stop herself. His hand brushed hers. Then let's stop pretending. The problem was, she hadn't been pretending last night. Not completely. But her mind spun. Evelyn had just raised the stakes. And if Isabella didn't deliver something soon, she suspected the woman wouldn't just destroy Damien. She'd come for her too. That night, Isabella made a choice. She needed answers. Real ones. Evelyn had always been too calm, too certain Damien would cheat, almost like she'd known. So she broke the one rule she never broke on assignment. She traced her employer. It didn't take long. A burner phone Evelyn had used to contact Isabella had pinged from a private estate in Montecito just 2 weeks earlier. The same night Damien was at a closed-door tech summit in Tokyo. Isabella dug deeper. Hacked security logs. Surveillance footage. And then she saw it. Evelyn. With another man. Not a stranger. A recognizable face. Jared Whitley. Damien's former business partner and rumored enemy. Shirt half-buttoned. Evelyn's hand on his chest. Their faces far too close. So that was it. This wasn't about betrayal. It was about control. About leverage. About revenge. Evelyn hadn't just sent Isabella to catch Damien. She'd sent her to manufacture a betrayal that could hold up in court while her own hands stayed clean. Isabella stared at the screen. Her pulse was quiet now. Cold. Focused. She wasn't Evelyn's tool anymore. She was the fuse. Isabella stood beneath the sweeping archways of Evelyn Blackwood's Bel Air estate, dressed in black like the shadow she had become. She hadn't called ahead. She wanted Evelyn off balance. The front gates had opened automatically, as if expected. Of course they were. Evelyn played chess. She was already on her third move. The butler led Isabella through the marble foyer to a sun-drenched sitting room that smelled faintly of jasmine and cruelty. Evelyn waited by the fireplace, dressed like mourning had become fashionable. Black silk, diamond earrings. No makeup, but not a hair out of place. "Well," Evelyn said without turning. "I take it you've come to deliver." Isabella stepped forward, calm, controlled. "You're not even going to pretend to be surprised to see me?" Evelyn finally looked at her, and there it was again, that terrifying calm. "Surprise is for amateurs. So, do you have what I paid for?" "I have something," Isabella said. She set her phone on the table between them. The screen showed the paused security footage. Evelyn and Jared Whitley, framed in grainy intimacy. Evelyn didn't flinch. Didn't even look. "I thought you might try to grow a conscience," she said. "It's always adorable when operatives think they're part of the story." "I wasn't supposed to be," Isabella said. "But you made me the story the second you lied about why you wanted that footage." Evelyn poured herself tea. "I didn't lie. I said I needed proof. I never said who had to cheat first. You manipulated him. And me. And I paid you well to do it. You didn't pay me to fall for him." That caught Evelyn's attention. Her smile froze just slightly. "Oh, darling," she said with mock sympathy. "You actually believe what he told you? That he's reformed? That he wants something real? You're just another chapter in his long book of excuses." "No," Isabella said, her voice low now. "I'm the end of the book." She slid a second file across the table. It was a flash drive. On it, Evelyn and Jared. Dates. Timestamps. Bank transfers. A contract draft. An early version of a merger proposal between Jared's company and Evelyn's inherited shares from Damien's empire. All off the record. All damning. Evelyn's fingers paused over her teacup. "You're bluffing." "I'm not," Isabella said. "And here's the real twist. If you move forward with your case against Damien, I release this to the board. Your entire prenup clause collapses under mutual infidelity. You lose half of nothing." Evelyn stared at her for a long moment, the mask slipping just a fraction. "You're smarter than I thought." "No," Isabella said. "I just stopped underestimating myself." The older woman stood, smoothing her dress like the queen she thought she was. "What do you want?" "Money. Immunity. I want out," Isabella said. "I want you to walk away. No lawsuits. No payouts. No press leaks. You go your way. He goes his. And I disappear. You'd really walk away from him?" Isabella's expression didn't waver. "Would you?" For the first time, Evelyn hesitated. And then she gave a single, graceful nod, nothing more. A queen conceding, not because she'd lost, but because the next move wasn't worth the blood it would cost. Isabella turned and walked away without another word. As she stepped into the sunlight, she realized something. She hadn't just outplayed Evelyn. She'd finally stepped out of the game. The sky over Los Angeles was a deeper blue than Isabella had ever seen it, almost unreal. She stood on the rooftop garden of Damien's penthouse, the wind teasing the hem of her coat. The city stretched below her like an empire built on ambition and illusion. She'd told herself she wouldn't come back. But here she was. Damien stepped out behind her, silent at first. He didn't touch her, didn't speak, just stood beside her, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on the horizon. It wasn't awkward, it was something softer, something earned. "You disappeared," he said finally. "I had to," she replied. "There were loose ends." "Evelyn, she won't be a problem." He nodded, not asking how she knew, not pressing for details. He didn't need to. The way she carried herself now told him everything. She hadn't just walked away from Evelyn. She'd walked through fire and come out clean. "I should hate you," he said after a beat. She looked at him, steady. I wouldn't blame you if you did. You lied to me. I was paid to. And yet, he turned to her fully now. You didn't finish the job. No, she said. I didn't. A silence bloomed between them again, but this time it wasn't tension. It was weight. History. The unbearable truth of what they were and what they might still be. Damien stepped closer. You could have destroyed me. I almost did. Why didn't you? Isabella looked up at him, and for once she had no rehearsed line. No seduction. No plan. Because you didn't deserve it, she said. And because I don't want to be the kind of woman who turns love into evidence. He didn't flinch at the word. Love. It hung between them, quiet and dangerous. He took her hand. Stay. She exhaled slowly. I don't know if I can be that woman. The one who just lives. Without the mission. Without the mask. Then be someone new. And maybe that was the real choice. Not between loyalty and betrayal. Not between justice and survival. But between who she was trained to be and who she could become. She stepped closer, pressing her forehead to his. No more lies. No more traps, he whispered. They stood like that as the city pulsed around them. Two people who had every reason to run, but stayed anyway. And in that moment, the trap wasn't velvet. It was real.